The most important trophy in football has been stolen twice. The first time, an entire country went into panic mode. The second time, it disappeared forever and has never been recovered. But the strangest part of this story isn't that someone managed to steal football's greatest prize. It's who found it. Because after days of investigations, nationwide headlines, and a desperate search involving hundreds of police officers, the breakthrough came from a dog named Pickles. And once you hear the full story, you'll understand why FIFA completely changed how it protects the World Cup trophy. To understand how this happened, we need to travel back to a very different era of football. Long before Messi, long before Ronaldo, long before football became the billion-dollar global machine we know today. Back then, the World Cup trophy wasn't the famous golden trophy you see players lifting today. It was called the Jules Rimet Trophy, named after the FIFA president who helped create the World Cup itself. For football fans, this trophy was sacred. Winning it meant becoming the best football nation on earth. Every 4 years, countries fought for the right to lift it. And by the 1960s, it had already become one of the most recognizable trophies in sports. Then came 1966. England was preparing to host the World Cup for the very first time. Excitement was everywhere. Newspapers covered every update. Fans couldn't wait for the tournament to begin. To build even more excitement, organizers decided to put the trophy on public display. At the time, it seemed like a great idea. Thousands of people would get to see football's greatest prize up close. Today, that decision sounds completely insane. Modern trophies are protected by alarms, cameras, reinforced glass, and full-time security teams. But in 1966, things were different. Nobody seriously believed anyone would try to steal the World Cup trophy. Then, someone did exactly that. On March 20th, visitors arrived expecting to see the Jules Rimet Trophy. Instead, they discovered something shocking. It was gone. The most important object in football had vanished. Imagine the panic. England was about to host the biggest football tournament on the planet. Yet somehow the tournament's most important symbol had disappeared months before kickoff. The story exploded across the country. Newspapers printed emergency headlines. Radio stations interrupted programming. Police launched a massive investigation. Every lead mattered. Every witness was questioned. Every possibility was considered. For days, nobody knew where the trophy was, and the pressure kept growing. Because the closer England got to the World Cup, the more embarrassing the situation became. People started asking uncomfortable questions. How could this happen? Who stole it? And most importantly, would the trophy ever be found? At one point, investigators received ransom demands connected to the theft. Someone claimed they could help recover the trophy. Authorities followed multiple leads. Most of them went nowhere. Meanwhile, FIFA officials were becoming increasingly nervous. The World Cup was football's biggest event. Losing the trophy wasn't just embarrassing, it was a global humiliation. As the days passed, the mystery only grew larger. Nobody knew it yet, but the person who would eventually solve the case wasn't a detective, wasn't an investigator, and wasn't even a human. Because while police were searching across England, an unlikely hero was about to enter the story. A small dog named Pickles. And what happened next would become one of the strangest moments in sports history. A few days after the theft, a man named David Corbett was taking his dog for a walk in South London. It seemed like a completely ordinary day. Nothing unusual, no dramatic police chase, no secret operation. Just a man walking his dog. Then, Pickles noticed something. The dog became interested in a package hidden beneath some bushes. At first, Corbett didn't think much of it, but when he looked closer, he discovered something wrapped in newspaper. Inside was the missing World Cup trophy. After days of investigations involving hundreds of police officers, the breakthrough came from a dog. The story instantly became national news. People couldn't believe it. England's biggest sporting mystery had been solved by a pet. Pickles became an overnight celebrity. He appeared on television, attended events, posed for photographs. Some fans even joked that Pickles deserved a World Cup winner's medal. More importantly, the trophy was back. England's nightmare was over. The World Cup could go ahead. And a few months later, England would win the tournament on home soil. For most people, that should have been the end of the story. The trophy had been found. Football had moved on. Everything seemed normal again, but football history had one more twist waiting. 4 years later, Brazil won the 1970 World Cup. That victory was special. It was Brazil's third World Cup title, and under FIFA rules at the time, any nation that won the tournament 3 times earned permanent ownership of the Jules Rimet Trophy. Brazil got to keep it forever. For Brazilian fans, it was the ultimate symbol of football greatness. The country that produced Pelé now owned football's most famous trophy. For years, the trophy remained in Brazil, protected, displayed, admired by millions. At least that's what everyone believed. Then came December 1983, and football's worst nightmare returned. Thieves broke into the headquarters of the Brazilian Football Confederation in Rio de Janeiro. Their target wasn't cash. It wasn't expensive equipment. It wasn't confidential documents. They wanted only one thing: the Jules Rimet Trophy, the original World Cup trophy. And this time the criminals succeeded. The trophy disappeared. Again. The news shocked the football world. How could the same trophy be stolen twice? How had football's most important treasure become a target once again? Authorities launched another investigation. Suspects were tracked down. Arrests were eventually made. Yet despite all those efforts, investigators faced a devastating problem. The trophy itself never reappeared. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. Months became years. Nothing. No recovery. No miraculous discovery. No Pickles to save the day. The original World Cup trophy had vanished, and this time, it wasn't coming back. As investigators continued searching, a disturbing theory began to emerge. Authorities believed the thieves had melted the trophy down and sold the gold. If true, it meant one of the most important artifacts in sports history no longer existed. Think about that for a moment. This trophy had witnessed decades of football history. It had been lifted by legends, traveled across continents, survived wars, political turmoil, and some of the most famous moments in sports. Yet it may have been destroyed for the value of its metal. That's what makes this story so tragic. To football fans, the trophy represented history. To criminals, it represented money. Those two perspectives could not have been more different, and football paid the price. The loss of the Jules Rimet Trophy forced FIFA to rethink everything. If football's most valuable object could disappear twice, then clearly the old system wasn't working. That's why the trophy we see today is completely different. In 1974, FIFA introduced a new World Cup trophy, the one modern fans recognize instantly. The trophy featuring 2 human figures lifting the earth. The same trophy lifted by Maradona, by Zidane, by Iniesta, by Messi. It's become one of the most recognizable symbols in global sports. But FIFA also changed another important rule. Winning nations no longer get to keep the original trophy. Many casual fans don't realize this. When Argentina won the World Cup in 2022, they didn't permanently take home the original trophy. Neither did France, neither did Germany, neither did Brazil. Instead, champions receive a replica. The real trophy always remains under FIFA's control. And honestly, after hearing this story, that decision makes perfect sense. Because football has already learned what happens when its greatest prize isn't protected. The story of the World Cup trophy contains everything you'd expect from a Hollywood movie. A shocking theft, a nationwide manhunt, a celebrity dog, a second crime, a priceless treasure that vanished forever, and a mystery that still fascinates football fans decades later. Most people remember the goals. Most people remember the finals. Most people remember the champions. Far fewer remember that the trophy itself has one of the strangest histories in all of sports. A history involving panic, embarrassment, crime, and one very famous dog. In many ways, the World Cup trophy story reflects football itself. Unpredictable, dramatic, sometimes unbelievable, and occasionally stranger than fiction. Because if someone pitched this story as a movie script, most people would probably say it sounds unrealistic. Yet every major part of it actually happened. The most important trophy in football was stolen, then found by a dog, then stolen again, and finally lost forever. That's not fiction. That's football history. And that's why the story of the World Cup trophy remains one of the greatest mysteries the sport has ever seen. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe. Because some of football's most incredible moments happen far away from the pitch. And many of them are even harder to believe than this one.